want to welcome you to Thrive in the Word and to our study of the seven churches of Asia out of the book of Revelation. Today we're going to be in Revelations, the second chapter, and we're going to be starting at the end of verse number 10. Now let me just say a couple things to you. First of all, if you like what we're doing, hit the like button. Please subscribe to this channel and you will get a notification every time we put a new video, new teaching up on this channel. Also, if you've not been following us, please go back and listen to the messages that lead up to this point, because it's so essential that you have a good foundation and that you don't just pick and choose things, especially when you're doing an expository study like we do. You just can't come into an expository teaching and just pick and choose. You need to get the whole realm or the whole grasp or all the context of what's being said. So go back and listen to those videos. They're all there. They're all free of charge, and we're just wanting to bless you and strengthen your faith. You know, we're looking at the church at Smyrna, and one of my deepest concerns is that believers would be able to stand in the time of persecution. If persecution came, and by the way, it's here in the United States, it's not to the depth of where it was in Smyrna or where it is in other parts of the world. But if persecution came to your church, how many of those believers would stand? You see, Jesus is writing here in the 10th verse of chapter 2, and he's giving two commandments to the believers that are in the church at Smyrna. Now, the church at Smyrna was one of two churches that Jesus had absolutely nothing against that church. We could go as far as to say this was a model church. But the two commandments, and we talked about the first one last week, where Jesus says, don't fear. Then the second commandment, also found in verse 10, and it's towards the end of verse 10, but he says, be faithful until death, and I will give you the crown of life. Be faithful. Now, this word faithful is actually the same word as faith. And the Greek word actually means to have a trust or a belief in. And so what Jesus is saying to this church is not just to be patient and endure. What he's saying is stay in the faith. Stay in what you believe. Don't leave what you believe. It's amazing to me to in the 50 some odd years of being a Christian and 46 years of being in full-time ministry, it's amazing to me the people that all of a sudden they just leave the faith. It's gone. It has no power or strength in their life anymore. They left the faith. Now here Jesus is writing to a church that's being persecuted in horrendous ways. In fact, I think that the city and the church at Smyrna suffered the most torturous persecutions anywhere. They were placed in lions' dens. They were beaten to death. All kinds of torturous ways of ending a person's life. And yet these people in Smyrna, Jesus writes to them, and he says this. And by the way, the pretext of this is that Jesus knows. He uses the Greek word eido when he says, I know. And the Greek word eido means to see and to have knowledge by seeing and witnessing something. And Jesus writes to them and he says, don't fear. And then he writes to them and he's still seeing them and he's still having a knowledge of them. And he's still being close to them and he's asking them and he's commanding them. Actually, it's an imperative verb right there. He's commanding them, be faithful. Don't give up on your faith. And then he says this. He says, I will give you the crown of life. Be faithful until you're dead. Now, some people would say, well, all of us are going to die. So that just means I need to be faithful until I die. And you know what? That's absolutely true. But remember, these people were facing death on a daily basis. And Jesus is saying to them, when you die, after you die, you're going to receive something. And you're going to receive it from me. Notice how personal he says, I will. How personal that is. I will. I'm going to personally come to you. And I'm going to give you the crown of life. You're going to die for the faith, but I'm going to personally give you the crown of life. Now, a couple things we need to understand here. First of all, the crown of life was different than the king's crown. The crown of life that John is writing about and that Jesus is talking about, it's a crown that's given as the victor. The Greek word is Stephanos, and it's a different type of crown. How many of you know that there's only one king in this kingdom, and his name is Jesus? And Jesus wears a crown, but it's the king's crown. But there is another crown, and it's called a Stephanos in the Greek language, and this crown is a victor's crown. This is given to someone who has overcome. This is given to someone who has found victory in their life. This is given to someone, in this case, to someone who has given their life for the sake of the gospel. They've remained faithful to their death. And because you have remained faithful to your death, Jesus says, I'm going to come to you personally, and I'm going to place a crown upon your head, and it's called the crown of life. In other words, you are going to be able to display to everyone around you that you have found victory. Wow, what a beautiful, beautiful thing. The crown of life is given to every person that gives his life for the sake of the gospel. Sometimes we call it the martyr's crown. Now we're going to continue here looking at the church at Smyrna in our next video. So will you join us? God bless you until we speak to you tomorrow.